Knoxville with our very good friend Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's and On 3, who joins us at this time every single Friday morning. Brent, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year and 2025 to everyone on this Friday morning.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Brent.
Absolutely. You as well. Let's dive right in, Brent. The big story of the week. What is the latest on Mike Matthews, and do you feel like today might finally be the day that he goes into the transfer portal officially?
Mike Matthews is like the guy that, or the lady that comes up and pulls off 2 weeks of vacation by taking 2 off days. That's what this thing feels like. That's what this thing feels like it's turned into. I think today has to be the day. I think that Mike got all of his paperwork and all the video onboarding and things he has to have done on Monday. So the assumption was his 48-hour clock started on Tuesday. But it turns out New Year's Eve is apparently a holiday for the NCAA, so that's not a business working day, and neither was New Year's Day. So his 48-hour business day working clock started yesterday. Today is the last day of that 48 hours. So we think, unless there's a loophole I'm unaware of, by 5 o'clock Eastern time today, something has to be done. He's either got to officially be in the portal or he's got to withdraw and not go in the portal unless there's something out there rules-wise that I've not heard of, don't know of, and are not aware of. So I do think we'll get something from the Mike Matthews world today, whether he's pulling his name and he's back or he's officially going into the portal. It certainly has felt like the last couple of days, it feels more like he's officially going to end up going in the portal. We'll see. He and Josh Heupel and Mike Matthews' family have spoken every day for the last 6 or 7 days.
Brent, how do you think Tennessee has tried to keep him around? Because with the lack of continuity they have at that wide receiver position, it feels like Tennessee is going to have to be really aggressive in acquiring talent with all the resources they have left. How do you think they've gone about trying to prevent him from going in the portal?
Well, I mean, I think that, the surprise was last Friday night when he decided that he was going to go in the portal and wanted papers, because up until that point they had everything agreed upon and he was good for moving into year 2 as a Tennessee player. When I say he was good with NIL, he was good with everything. And so, I think the conversations have been much more about the offense and much more about his comfortableness with everything at Tennessee, how he's going to be used, playing time, and those types of things than it has been, demands for more money. So, we'll see. I mean, I think it boils down to, at this point, whether or not Mike Matthews wants to be here. And I think that's kind of been the story the last 3 or 4 days, is real simple. Do you want to be at Tennessee or do you not want to be at Tennessee? And I think that's the decision Mike Matthews has been struggling with the last few days.
Wow. Brent Hubbs with us this morning, VolQuest's and On 3. Brent, again, Happy New Year, man. It's good hearing your voice.
Same to you, my friend. Happy New Year.
With that being said, all right, so within a calendar year, you did whatever it took to get him on campus, right, and commit and sign his letter of intent. What changes within a year, man, to keep him on campus? Or is this just, the method of operating moving forward now, Brent?
Oh, I think this is the method of the world we're in moving forward. I mean, I think that because every year is a free agency year, it's actually got 2 free agency windows. You can negotiate a deal in December and then try to negotiate a new deal in April if you want to. I think that's the world we're living in college athletics. And I think that it's why I've said, and I think I've said it on this show, you better play your young players. You better figure out a way to get young guys on the field, get them involved, get them engaged, and try to move forward from there with the understanding of you're not going to keep everybody. I mean, it's going to be really hard to stockpile a bunch of numbers and a bunch of high-quality players and ask those guys to wait. It's just going to be really hard to do, particularly at the skill position spots. There will be some exceptions. Some guys grew up, just loving the team that they played for. It's like I watched Ohio State and the Sawyer kid who plays off the edge, who had Jack Sawyer. I think he's a terrific football player. I mean, that guy probably went home in an Ohio State onesie from the hospital. I mean, he grew up 25 minutes from Columbus. So you have some of those situations, but for the most part, I think a lot of guys find themselves in free agent situations every year. And so, you better be able to figure out a way to get guys on the field and let them be effective in year one and be a part and engaged. Your culture's got to be good. You've got to stay on top of everything, have every conversation you need to be having. All those things you got to work at the relationship is the bottom line, Ramon. And I think that's where we're at in college athletics right now.
For sure. Brent Hubbs with us this morning. Hubbs, two things, man, and one question. One is a statement to somebody, and the other is a question about the other. One, if you run into Landry Jones, ask him who's the best blocker he's ever met in his entire life, and if it's not me, you tell him he sucks, okay? That's first. There's a block for Landry, okay? So there's that. And he needed UT more than we needed Oklahoma, all right? But here's this, too. I gotta mess with him now, right? Okay. Also, in that same sense, coaching staff, man, what's going on with Tim Banks in either Miami or this Clemson rumors that are going around with him?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything that happens with Miami. I don't think Miami's a place that Tim Banks has much interest in. I guess you never say never, but it certainly doesn't feel like, in talking to as many people as we can talk to, that there's anything of any significance going on with Miami. Names being floated out there, but I don't think I don't think anything's going to happen there. Clemson's more interesting. We'll see. Clemson's in a little bit of a unique spot in that they're waiting to see if Coach Goodwin, their defensive coordinator, takes the job at Oklahoma, as he's been rumored to be a top candidate there for Brent Venables. The two work together at Clemson. If he goes to Oklahoma, it saves Clemson some money if he goes on his own. If he gets fired, then they've got to pay him his buyout money, and then there's a mitigated number in there that he would not get his full buyout if he took a job at Oklahoma or somewhere else. So this is an agent financial deal right now. They're waiting to see how everybody can get their money. I can keep my money if I'm Clemson. I can get some of my money if I'm Goodwin for getting fired. We'll see how that plays out. Now, when that job officially becomes open, and I think it's absolutely going to be open. There's too many quality reporters reporting that it's going to happen for it not to be the case, in my opinion. Then it gets interesting to see where Tim Banks would be with that job, how much interest he would have in that job. And would he have any interest in it at all? How comfortable is he at Tennessee? I think he likes it at Tennessee. I think his wife likes it here in town. I think she's comfortable here, but he did not get a contract extension last offseason. And he coached this year on an expiring deal. And I think that was, bothersome, because of what he's done the last 3 years in building this defense. And statistically, they've gotten better each year. And he was not extended in the offseason. And I think that's something he's got to work through and figure out, how comfortable, if he's comfortable with everybody here. He's got a deal in place to sign. He's had it for a while. And I think right now he's looking at that, and I'm sure his agent's out there talking on the phone, and we'll see what materializes with Clemson. I think Clemson's much more realistic than Miami in terms of being possibly interested in a job. I don't necessarily mean it's more realistic that he's leaving, but I don't think Miami's ever going to materialize into even an interview. I could certainly see Clemson potentially doing that.
Brent Hubbs, our good friend at VolQuest's, joining us like he does every Friday at this time. Back to the transfer portal situation. Brent, what can you tell us about the young wide receiver Amari Jefferson, who is announced he's leaving Alabama? Why does Tennessee maybe make for a good fit?
Because Tennessee was second. He was committed to Tony Vitello to play baseball. And then he blew up on the football field, and it went from, hey, you get some partial scholarship money to play college baseball, or you can get paid to play college football. And, he decided he wanted to play football and had a great senior year, was terrific in the championship game and the state title game. And I think that Amari and those around Amari were really caught up and enamored with the idea of playing for Nick Saban at Alabama and a championship program. Nick Saban's not there, and Alabama didn't have a very good year, and he was not a factor. So I think that he's got a lot of people around Tennessee that he knows, a lot of friends that go to school here. I think Tennessee is home. I mean, he had some interest in kind of toying with Tennessee before he signed it never materialized into a visit because of Nick Saban. But I think there was always some Tennessee thought in the back of his head. And so when he went in the portal, it's logical that Tennessee would be a school that makes a ton of sense. One, it's Tennessee, and they finished second. And two, Tennessee, counting their seniors, is down 7 receivers in their receiving room via the portal, via graduation. They need bodies, and he would make a lot of sense.
Brent, as much as we're talking about the transfer portal right now and then going to open back up, in April, is that correct?
Yes, end of April.
Okay. There is recruiting going on, too. And so, Tennessee, tell me about the 4-star cornerback, Jordan Edmonds, and maybe what he's kind of looking at right now early in his recruitment.
Well, I think, what you're seeing with some of those defensive backs is you're seeing what they saw this year, and that's Jamad McCoy and that's Ricky Gibson, and the production that they had and the way that they played. And I think there's some they like what they see out of those teams. And, Tennessee got involved with Edmonds early, 6'3", 170-pound corner. That they were one of the first teams to really jump on him. He's scheduled to be back in town for an unofficial visit in January. Tennessee will have junior days coming up, and then he's going to take an official visit in summer. So Tennessee's definitely in it for him. And I think you got to give them credit for being early to the party there. And again, I think his interest in Tennessee is largely due to what he sees out of the corners. Jamad McCoy is going to be an NFL guy a year from now if he stays healthy. Ricky Gibson probably needs to add some weight, but he's got NFL skills for sure. So I think Tennessee's secondary play this year certainly is catching the eye of defensive backs out there, and they've done a good job evaluating that position.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's on 3, our guest this morning here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Brent, on the Zachariah Branch front, the USC transfer receiver and his brother Zion, any updates there, and what is that conversation like as the Vols try to get him on campus?
That's the conversation. Will you come visit? Will you come see us? We have a need. We would love for you to come to campus, and we'd love for you to take a visit. And that's where the conversation starter is come take a look at us. And right now they don't have anything scheduled. So we'll see if that materializes into a visit or it doesn't materialize into a visit. They've been at Miami on a visit. Texas has tried to get involved there. Georgia's involved there. We saw Georgia play yesterday. Their drops resurfaced yesterday. They've had a horrible year dropping the football at the receiver position. They clearly are looking for receiver help. To me, with the Branch brothers, nothing gets real until they step foot on campus. And right now they don't have a visit scheduled. So that's what Tennessee's trying to do every day is with Branch's people and trying to convince them to swing through, whether it's for 4 hours or for 48 hours, come through and take a look at campus. And to this point, they have not committed to doing that.
Brent, you guys wrote on the War Room about South Dakota State running back Angel Johnson, someone the Vols continue to evaluate and want to get on campus. Do you get the sense Tennessee is looking for a running back one in the transfer portal, or do you feel like maybe Peyton Lewis steps into that role and they're looking for another body and just someone to complement him and Deshaun Bishop as well?
Well, it depends on who the conversation is with. If you're talking to Angel, then he's running back one. If you're talking to Peyton Lewis and Deshaun Bishop, he's helping the room and depth piece. So you got to recruit him, right?
Right.
So
sure.
I think that ultimately they like Peyton Lewis, they like Deshaun Bishop. I think they would like another guy as a part of the rotation and a guy with experience to help bring along, the freshmen that are on campus. And is it a must? I wouldn't say it's necessarily a must, but it would be helpful considering Deshaun Bishop's had a hard time kind of staying healthy. I think that's a bit unfortunate. I don't think he's a brittle body, but he's had, kind of 2 years now of ankle issues. So I think you would like to have someone that you could turn and hand the ball to that's got experience, because you found yourself, you were an injury away from playing walk-ons in the Ohio State game because you just didn't have enough bodies there. So I don't think they're going to go for a big-name guy that's going to upset the apple cart, but I do think there would be interest in getting another body there to help them along. Now, they really only played 2 backs this year when you think about it. the second back was a different guy depending on who was healthy, but they didn't have a true 3-man rotation at any point in time during the year. So does Sims feel like he needs to play 3 backs because he beat Dylan Sampson up too much? I don't know. I think that's something that you evaluate when you do your self-scout that you're doing right now at the end of the year. Do we need to play more bodies at that position, or are 2 guys kind of the way that the rotation works best? That's a decision that Darrell Sims has to look at and decide upon.
Brent Hubbs with us this morning, still talking Vols and college football, college sports, does that matter? Hubbs, the answer's good, okay? That I'm a given answer, but I still want your opinion on it. Like, the Vols just finished playing in the college football playoffs. But going into this 2025 calendar, like, what is the state of Vols football right now? Because it seems just a little volatile, considering losing a lot of experienced guys. And right now the wide receiver room's got 2 scholarship players and got to figure out if Nico's real deal. I mean, there's a lot of questions. So what do you say the early, sense of where the Vols are right now?
Well, I mean, I don't think all is lost, okay? I don't think that the Ohio State loss breaks you. And what I mean by that is, like, okay, that then the window's closed, right? Like, right. It's a total revamp. It's totally starting over. But at the same time, too, if you're not being innovative, if you're not growing, if you don't have, ask yourself some real questions about what we need to do to take another step forward, then I don't think you're doing your job. And I think that Josh Heupel has to ask himself, what do I need to do better? I think he's got to ask his staff, what do you guys think I need to do better? We need to do better. And then he's got to point out things he thinks they have to do better. I mean, this is when you get in the room in the think tank and you have real discussions about what's working, what's not working, on the field, off the field, accountability. All of those things are on the table for discussion right now. And some of those discussions, quite frankly, might be a little hard. Okay, and they might be a little offensive at points in time, but those are discussions that you have to have, and you should have them every year moving forward, right? I mean, that's what made Nick Saban the GOAT. He had those same discussions after they won a championship when they didn't win a championship, okay? That's right now. Dan Lanning's going to have those conversations at Oregon. We lost, 1 game this year, but we lost at Handley. Like, what's the next step for us? What are we missing here? Here's the other question that you have in college football that I wonder about a little bit. With the portal, does your window for staying open to win, does it stay wide open all the time, or does it close a little bit here and there because of the portal? And maybe you lose some experienced guys. So you go from being a pretty experienced team with some depth to the portal makes you an inexperienced team with not as much depth. Those are the cases that you see. And I think that's something that we're all watching for in college football. Do the blue bloods stay at the top every year? The teams that's been the traditional teams, do they stay right at the top and clearly better than everybody else, year in and year out? We'll find out whether that's the case or not. I mean, every SEC team's looking right now going, wait a minute now, where are we at in our league? Is there something that we need to that this league has slipped in a little bit, because you weren't as successful in bowl games, and Georgia did get pushed around yesterday by Notre Dame in the line of scrimmage, and in the second half, Texas got pushed around in a lot of ways by Scatterboo and Arizona State. We know Tennessee got pushed around by Ohio State, so I think the league's looking at things as well. So you're always in a state of adjustment, Ramon, and you have to be adjusted. That doesn't mean all is lost. But if you're sitting there patting yourself on the back saying we've arrived, then the next thing you know, you're going to be in the cellar. And so you got to continue to grow and evolve and tweak and counterpunch and have all those things on the table for discussion and have answers to every offseason.
And Brent, that's kind of what I was going to ask you about, just in terms of what you've seen out of the SEC this year. Obviously not down by any means, but there's a lot more parity involved in this, and probably because of what you just said. But at the same time, if you're looking at it from Heupel's lens, like, this is an opportunity now with Georgia a little bit down, having to figure things out, Alabama having its issues, right, to pounce on it.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to go. I mean, you've got to. Again, I don't think we're going to see. And look, Ohio State may be the best team in the country next year as well. Okay, Ohio State wasn't the best team in the country 4 weeks ago. 5 weeks ago. They have gotten better. They have figured things out heading into the playoff run here, and they have gotten hot. Now, can they stay hot for 2 more weeks and win this thing? I mean, certainly feels like it right now with the way Jeremiah Smith is playing. You know, part of this is who is getting better. And I think if you're an SEC team, you're looking at how much better was I as a team at the end of the year than I was in the middle of the year. Were we beat up? Do we have to manage things differently? What do we have to do individually in this league to be at our best? Now, the league's going to come back, and people who are big believers in the SEC are going to say, listen, take those other meaningless bowl games out of the equation. Guys didn't want to be there and all that kind of stuff. And I get it. But I think when you're an individual team in this league, you're looking at it going, okay, let's see where we're at. I mean, South Carolina's sitting there today going, you know what? We got a chance next year in the league. We'd be a playoff team. We'd win this whole thing if we keep everybody coming back like we think we have coming back. I mean, they feel as good as anybody feels leaving right now, even though they didn't win their bowl game. When they look at, they're bringing back quarterback, they're bringing back their defensive front, a good bit of their offensive line's coming back. They got a young running back. They've got some talent at receiver. So, you know, it's one of those deals where I think this league feels like more teams have a chance to win it. So, yes, that window seems to be open for more teams. It's not just, you know, Alabama and Georgia playing for it and everybody else is, you know, a participant. This is now multiple teams have a real shot at winning this thing. And I think Illinois probably feels the same way in the Big Ten.
Sure.
With where they at, if they can hold everybody together. That's what makes the game great, is it may not be just the same 2 teams every year, which is, quite frankly, what college football has been looking for.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's On 3 joining us this morning, talking Tennessee football. Always lots to discuss out of the transfer portal. The grind never stops for the authority on Tennessee coverage over at VolQuest, even when the football does. Brent, we appreciate you, sir. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a great day.
You
Yes,
too,
sir.
Hubbs.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest joining us here this morning. And it sounds like Mike Matthews is going to the portal today. There you go.
Yep.
His emotions is pulling on him right now. That's what it is.
It's
I
like
remember that Amari Jefferson recruitment very well, too.
I didn't know that
Just
he
a
was a
couple of
baseball
years ago.
dude.
Oh, yeah. He was committed to Vitello before he was ever
That's wild.
that good and blew up at Baylor his senior year.
It was like a last-minute flip. Like, it was.
And it makes sense, like Brent said. Definitely makes sense to
It
come
does.
here.
How much money you think he wants? I know a school in North Carolina that could really use a wide receiver after getting beat up in the transfer.
Hey, you quiet. Shadows.
Hey, all we have is $300K.
All we got is 300.
Coming up, we'll
the whole
catch up
budget
on
on
your
them.
phone calls, 615-737-1045, and take a look at the biggest game of the weekend in the football world, Vikings and Lions. Who's got the edge in that one? We'll dive into that next.